So you've said on more than one occasion that the church was born in conflict. Talk about that. What did you mean by that?
Well, I think a lot of times, especially today, and I realize it because there's a lot of tension in the world right now, and everybody's looking for that one place I can go and have peace and quiet. And they really want the church to be a place of security where there's not a lot of conflict. But it's just a part of life, and church has always had its share of conflict. When you really think about it, Jesus had 12 disciples, right? And one of them was a man named Judas. You remember him? Many of us would have actually voted Judas off the bus. We would not have wanted him there had we been privy to the knowledge Jesus had. Because it's obvious when Jesus is instituting the Last Supper or the Lord's Supper, the Holy Eucharist, that Jesus knew that Judas was going to betray him. Because Jesus says, go do what you're going to do. But we would have voted him out of there. Jesus didn't. Now, a question that I would ask is, when I get to heaven, since I've got my explanation, I want Jesus' explanation. Because my explanation is, well, he needed somebody to betray him. That kind of sounds crass. But maybe Jesus was trying right up to the last minute to prove to Judas that he loved him. And I even believe, I'm so bold as to believe, had Judas not hung himself, had Judas been around, had he at least been with the disciples, or had not hung himself, I think that Jesus would have forgiven him. That's the kind of, because if he can say from the cross, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do, I think he would have said, I forgive you too, Judas. So sometimes, so the controversy was even in Jesus. I mean, even in Jesus' day and time, there were people who were part of the merry band who caused problems. And he never kicked them out. And then you got this big fight with, was it Ananias and Sapphira, I think it was, who where he was supposed to sell the land and he didn't sell the land, or he sold the land and he's supposed to give back money and he didn't get the money. I mean, and this was church folk, y'all. Y'all keep forgetting all of this stuff with church people. Then the fight about whether the Gentiles should be in the church or not whether they had to be circumcised or not circumcised. All of Paul's letters were written because there was craziness going on in the church. And we were trying to figure out how to live together as a church. And so there was never an era in the church where there was no conflict. There was always conflict. And the church was always trying to figure it out. So, and the more rules we had did not stop people from being ungodly. I don't care how many rules we had. We always had people in the family who were ungodly. Some were just plain old misled about what they did. Others were just immature in the faith. And you remember the story that really gets me is the splitting up of Paul and Barnabas over John Mark. And yet later on, Paul literally says, "Bring John Mark to me." Now, it never says that he and Barnabas got back together, but it does say that he realizes the maturity that John Mark somewhere along the way met Paul's expectations of growth and development in his life. So there's always been conflict in church. And so I'm just trying to get people to stop this pulling their hair out and saying that we church leaders like myself, bishops and all, that somehow we are to blame for conflict because we ain't leading right. The conflict is just in the church. It's just a part of human nature, and it's a part of the working out of the church through the power and presence of the Holy Spirit. And so sometimes we bishops might let you down, just like your pastors let down, just like treasurers let local churches down, just like a Sunday school teacher sometimes lets a church down. That's just a part of life, but it's also conflict is just a part of the church. And those who are mature, the Bible says, restore such a one in love. So as you grow, you're not only more tolerant of other people's sins, I know I'm more tolerant at 69 than I was when I was 29, because in those intervening 40 years, I made a lot of mistakes, and God has continued to love me. And I'm glad God has. And so for other people who make mistakes, I'm more tolerant. And so I'm just trying to get us to understand that God is working this out and be patient. I know some are so angry that they want to leave now because church ain't doing the way they want to do it. But it's like playing football. Just because they want to let you be the quarterback don't mean you got to stop having fun playing the game. So hang in there. We're going to be fine.